You're listening to Do That Well with your hosts, Brenda Brown and Karen Thrall, a podcast about real experiences and how to turn them into life lessons. Unscripted, honest, funny, genuine, and passionate. A series of conversations where we explore every aspect of human interaction and provoke each other to do life well. And today on Do That Well, we are going to talk about habit forming. About a year ago or so, at this point in time, we were talking about New Year's resolutions. And when we had that conversation, we did talk quite a bit about what it's like to create a resolution, why you would want to set these goals, so on and so forth. But we never really got into how you actually then try to form a new habit or try to stop a bad one, for that matter.
Yeah.
So, what better time to address it but a year later? As we revisit this topic.
That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. It was fun to, again, Google's so great to look around, check out psychology articles and business articles and professionals and experts and just seeing what the common theme is throughout them all. So hopefully in this episode, we're just going to be pulling from those themes.
And of course, you will hear a lot of our opinions as well. You know, things that we've found that work for us, or we've observed work for people around us, and maybe just some general questioning as well as to why these
Mhm.
things may or may not work for us. So, first things first, I mean, why why do we want to form new habits? I mean, there's many reasons for wanting to form a new habit. It could be just as simple as something that is a new idea that you have. It could be something you've been wanting to do for a really long time. Maybe it's a habit that you used to have and you lost it at some point along your journey and are in a different chapter and you want to bring it back into your current lifestyle. So there's lots of reasons that we would want
Mhm.
to form habits. Uh, and
Mhm.
on that same token, there's a lot of reasons why sometimes we have habits we want to get rid of.
hmm And I think one thing what really impressed on me was in the neuroscience, in the brain portion, there is this reaction that happens in the brain that stimulates habit forming. So if you
Mhm.
formed a bad habit, it's still a habit. And so the brain is communicating to you, oh, this is, I know, oh, I got this. Oh, I know this one. No, you don't even have to think about it. I got this one. I got it covered because we've done it so many times. I can take control here. And so then you're like, oh man. And you know, if it's a habit you don't want, you're like, oh, again. Oh, but if it's a habit you want, that's also really encouraging because once your brain really starts seeing the pattern, that repeat pattern, it's going to take over. And that's when it turns into a rhythm.
Mhm.
And so both are beneficial. If you're wanting to get out of a habit, it's kind of confusing the brain waves. And if you want to get in the habit, it's like just that repetition really is going to help you become effortless in it.
Mhm. And I like that you brought up that particular idea, Karen, because I think with habits, that is more or less the way that we know if we've successfully uh, started the new habit or if we've gotten rid of one, right? It's that idea of when it just becomes second nature, when your
Mm-hmm.
brain just does it for you, when it's just something you don't have to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think oftentimes, as you said, our brains will naturally start to repeat these patterns and you
Mm-hmm.
might form a habit without even intending to because it
Mm-hmm.
was just a behavior that was repeated enough
Yeah.
times that
Yeah.
your brain
Yeah.
said, well, this is a habit now.
hmm Like it could be even the way you talk about yourself, the way you view yourself. Like for me, I didn't know I didn't even know it was supposed to be habit forming, but this whole, just trying to get consistent in my sleeping patterns, and I'm learning all these techniques. But I had a couple of friends tell me, you're creating a habit with your sleeping. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. I didn't even know I was doing it. So keep repeating it when it works. And that works, keep repeating it. And it never crossed my mind, oh, to keep repeating that. And so I'm noticing that it is helping because
Mhm.
I'm going, okay, I am trying to form a habit of really good sleep. Never crossed my mind to make sleeping a habit. Never crossed my mind. So then when we
Right.
started looking into this, I was like, oh, wait a second. That's what I'm trying to do with my sleep, is create a really good habit.
Right. Oh, and I do. I really like that example because I would have never thought about it that way either. I would just think, oh, I've not been sleeping well enough. I need to sleep
Yeah.
more. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't take that sentiment and then think to myself, this is a habit that I need to form. I need to create a habit of sleeping better, sleeping longer, more, deeper, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I appreciate that example. So one of the things that we came across, and this was one of the first things that I came across when we started looking into this idea of habit formation. There's actually this Instagrammer that I follow, and she had posted this, and it was right as Karen, you and I were talking about habit formation. So it seemed like serendipitous timing. But she posted this image that I came to learn is from a gentleman named James Clear, and it's the three R's of habit formation. So the R's are one, reminder, two, routine, and three, reward. So the reminder is the stimulus or the thing that you want to do. So the reminder in our example we've been using is like, I want to get more sleep. The
Mm-hmm.
routine is that you then start getting more sleep. And right? And then the reward is that you'll be more well rested, you'll be better prepared to meet the day and what challenges it may have to present you. And the magic really happens between this reward and reminder. That's where
Mm-hmm.
habit formation really happens. That's where all the good stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea is that between this reward, this outcome of feeling more well rested, so on and so forth, that is then going to fuel the reminder that is going to then help you continue the routine, thus forming the habit.
I wonder too, you know how in business you say, what is the desired outcome? So what do we want to get out of this meeting? And you
Right.
put that at the front, but then you unpack it so that you hope at the end of the meeting you got to your desired outcome. I wonder if reward is that way. Like, I wonder if we need to remind ourselves of the reward of the habit.
Right.
So for me, it's rest, it's calmness, it's I wake up refreshed. It's that. So that now that I'm trying to create a habit on good sleep, I that's my like ultimate goal is, wow, I get to be refreshed, rested, you know, feeling great when I wake up. But so you forget that sometimes you have to remind yourself of how incredibly rewarding it's going to be once that habit's fulfilled.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And the idea is right that the reward is so valuable, or it's so much of a reward to you. It's exciting enough, it's giving you enough dopamine, whatever, that it's then going to get tied to that excuse me, I'm getting my R's confused. It's going to be tied to the reminder, as you're saying.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the reminder and the reward, they really become these things that work hand in hand to
Hmm.
reinforce the routine. Now, James Clear has a whole book about it. I haven't read it yet. This is just what I've taken away from what I have read. But I think it's a really interesting idea because you can start to see this idea that it is really all about reforming like brain waves and patterns of thinking.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, and when you were talking about the reminder thing, I've noticed again, this is such timely this podcast, because I wasn't even knowing my subconscious was wanting this podcast episode. I just last week put in calendar reminders of 3 routines that I want to have in my morning, and I really want them. And I kind of like will make excuses, or like I kind of, yeah, if it happens, it happens. I've been way more organic, no big deal. But I've been reflecting on it, and it was cool because I took an afternoon one day and I went to a place called Sunnylands in Palm Springs area. It's beautiful. And I just sat on a little bench and I was journaling, and I noticed these 3 routines. I was journaling about these 3 routines. So last week I did, out of the 5 days, I did the routines 4 out of 5. And then this week, I didn't do it today. And so I'm thinking the reminder, the routine, I'm still not in routine. So I'm getting the reminders, but I'm not in routine yet. But I long for the reward, you know?
And what's interesting is that you just said you long for the reward
Yeah.
too, and that's when for me you can really see how the three, like, because it's a circle. There's an image of the three R's, and it's like a circular, and all the arrows continue on. It's like the recycle, reduce, reuse,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Like they all keep going in a circle. Um, and so you can see even in what you're articulating just now that if you had gotten to the reward stage, then perhaps that would have then allowed you to circle back around to reminder.
Mm.
So I think that reward stage is really
Because it motivates you.
right.
It,
Yeah.
it motivates you to go back to the reminder, which creates the routine. I know, I
Mhm.
like that a lot. Okay, I want to tag you for a second because something I found I thought was interesting, and I have heard about it, but I haven't really read about it. It's Maxwell Maltz's work on self-image, and he has this thing 21/90. Have you seen this?
No.
I've known about this. I remember back when I was in therapy years ago that I remember my therapist talking about it. So there's two arguments over it. One argument is that's a myth, like that's not what that wasn't his intentions. But if you get the whole picture, it makes more sense. So 21 days. If you keep doing the same thing for 21 days, you're going to create a habit. So the hardest part is those first 21 days.
Hmm.
But the next hardest part is you have to do for 90 days. Like once the 21, you've got a rhythm of the 21 days, it takes 90 days for your brain to really respond and become independent and just take over. Like, I got this. So I think we've talked about this in other podcasts too, but I looked into it and it's 21/90.
Okay.
So when you're thinking about your reminder, to remind yourself, if even if we shorten the goal, going, hey, for the next 21 days, just 21 days, like lower the expectation. Just Karen, just for 21 days, can you do this for me? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Self Karen, I can do that for you. And then there's a huge reward because you did your 21 days, and you've got a little bit of a routine now. The next crunch is the 90, and once you overcome that 90, you're good. Like you've got a natural rhythm flow with that habit.
The
So I
habits
thought that
flow.
was cool. Yeah.
That
Have
is
you heard about
cool.
that?
I haven't, but I like this idea. So it's 21 days is the time to start the routine, but then you need to do the routine for 90 days to solidify the habit. Is
Yeah.
that
Yep. And you think about how hard it is. You think about working out or starting to run or whatever. It's great for a little while, but then right around week 2, you start to lose your momentum. It's like, no, do one more week because you're starting to create that path in your brain. So that
Mhm.
21 days is so valuable. So if you just have a short goal of 21 days and then really commit to the 90 days.
Oh, I like
I thought that
that.
was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, you have my wheels turning because I have been known to like to chase new habits. Like I really in right now I'm taking a pottery class and like everything is pottery, pottery, pottery 24. It's for those of you that listen to this episode, you might be having flashbacks to my soccer moment. But so I tend to really enjoy like diving all into new things and new habits and making them a part of my routines in my life. But what's interesting is when I really think about it, I think there are very few things that I'll end up doing for more than about 3 months. Yeah. Like that's kind of the shelf life of when I either solidify it into something that continues to be a part of my life, or that's when I start to lose interest and move on to something else.
Before you get to the 90 days.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's interesting
Interesting.
to
Yeah.
hear. I don't know if there's any correlation or if that's strictly a Brenda Brown thing, but
and And then, I mean, I know that our episode's not about that, but we do have tangents we go on, or we have like whimsical moments of doing something for a season for a short amount of time,
Right.
but what we're talking about is habits. So there is maybe some of it is just fun, like
Right.
I don't want to do this as a habit. This is all I want. But when we get discouraged because why can't I keep up the habit, it might be that your brain is still activating that path. Your
Right.
brain is still trying to communicate, okay, this is a habit, and it hasn't fully developed that new way of making something just a rhythm.
Right.
So yeah, okay, all right.
Interesting.
Who knows?
So I'm curious, what how do we feel like these things that we've talked about so far, how would they apply to if you were trying to break a
Mm.
habit? Because from the reading that I've done, it seems like the methodology that you would use as far as whether or not you are on this 3 R's circular thing of reminder, routine, reward, whether you're ascribing more to this 21 days to start a routine, 90 days to actually solidify the habit. From what my understanding is that you would use those same methods to try to break a habit.
You're
It's
right,
just
I would think so.
right, but
Yeah,
it's just that you need to find different rewards, because if there's already a habit in place, you're already getting some sort of reward from that habit, and that's
yeah.
why it exists.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, so
right?
yeah, I wonder if you start with the reward. So what this is my longing, my reward. I want this reward in my life. I want this. Then you have to maybe ask yourself, which habit could get me to there? Because this habit
Oh.
certainly is not going to get me there. So let's think of, let's say,
How about we say it's a nail biter if you're trying to stop
okay,
nail biting?
which is me. I have the nail biting habit. I do. So, okay, talk to me. Talk to me, Brenda. Help
Okay.
me.
Well, what I like about what you've said so far, and this is like solely just us musing on this, so who knows
Yes.
if this is the way to do this or
Yes.
not. But what I like
Yes.
about what you're saying is that rather than trying to think of how to stop the bad habit, maybe we can think of a better habit
Oh,
to replace it with. Is that kind of what I'm
yeah.
hearing you say?
Right. I think so. Because if you're saying stop nail biting, don't nail bite, nail bite. You know what I mean? Like, don't.
Right.
You're still focusing on the bad habit.
Right. And you already have like there's some sort of reward that you're getting out of nail biting.
Yes.
Even if it's not a good reward, like you're being rewarded, otherwise you
Yeah.
wouldn't keep doing it. Even if it's just that it eses anxiety for a moment or something,
Yeah.
right?
Like if I'm watching a scary movie, it reminds me that I'm scared.
Right.
If I'm deeply
So
thinking about something, it's reminding me that I'm deeply thinking about something.
so is it that we would want to find something that you could replace that with
Mm. I know for me it's an up and down thing. So I'm successful and then I'm not successful, and I've kind of accepted that, which is not a good thing. That I have my ups and downs, and one minute I'm fine, then I'm not. Like I have a week of winning. Oh, I did it. Look at me, I did it for a week, and then I start being more lackadaisical about it.
Mhm. You haven't hit the
So
90 days yet.
I haven't hit the 90 days. So that okay, challenge accepted. I am okay. So the reward for okay. So I have a bad habit of biting my nails. The reward is to have. I don't like long nails. I'm not a long nail person.
Oh,
But
see,
to
so you can't give
just
yourself that reward.
no. But I do. I will have stronger nails,
You're putting less stress on your teeth. Can't be good for your
less
teeth,
stress on
right?
my teeth.
I don't know. That might be a stretch. Uh, but if we roll with this idea
Oh
of
my gosh.
let's replace it, then I'm drawn back to this reward idea. So like, what's the reward that you're currently getting out of nail biting? Let's, for the purposes of this
Yeah.
conversation, say that it's easing tension. Well,
Yeah.
something else that could ease tension is
Popcorn.
yes, chewing on popcorn. I was going to say breath work, but I'm just
Mhm.
thinking about what if we
But
take this approach of replacing the bad
yeah.
habit with a good one?
Yeah, and see what the see, it's easy to talk, but look at us. Or actually,
Right.
what do I do? Because you could do be hypnotized, but that doesn't mean you're creating a habit. You're gonna get, you could get hypnotized, and I think that does help. I think
Right.
it is controversial. Some people would never do that. So, but I've never done it, but I'm okay. Like I'd be open to it, but that doesn't solve my habit. That doesn't create a habit if
Right.
I did that. So, like, even getting manicures done does help, but it doesn't create a habit. It just helps.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
I still, it just helps. It helps me. But then again, maybe that's the whole point. It helps me not to bite my nails, and the point is not biting your nails.
Right. So
So I
is a
have to get out of that
reward,
habit.
maybe a reward is getting a manicure.
Yeah, maybe the reward is treat myself to a manicure
So if you can,
regularly, consistently.
right. So if you can make it a week or 2 weeks, I don't, however long you would like between
Yeah.
your manicures,
Yeah,
and
so I
your
make it a
goal
week. I
to,
go get a manicure.
right. So there we go. So the
Okay.
reminder is looking at your nails, seeing that they're
Yeah.
nicely manicured. The
Yeah.
routine is continuing to not bite them.
Yeah.
And then the reward is getting a new manicure the next week. So you'll always have a beautiful manicure.
There we go.
Okay, we have just a few more minutes left to talk about habit formation.
Okay.
I want to I'm curious if you're a person like me, and again, this is just we're just musing,
Hmm.
to go back to my amazing skill of diving really deeply into new habits and then leaving them a few months later. If you're someone like me, and that's something that you tend to do, what happens if you really actually want to sincerely keep the habit? Because I find that that first 21 days is relatively easy for me. The first 30 days is relatively easy, first 60, but it is right around that 90-day mark that I start to lose those habits. Um, I will say, I'm discovering this as I'm telling you right now, Karen, that oftentimes when I am doing something new, such as let's talk about when I was rock climbing, there's usually some sort of goal. And once I feel like I've achieved that goal, that's when I kind of lose the habit. So I think to answer my own question, one thing would probably be to take out the goal element and to focus more on it just becoming an ongoing habit versus something to achieve. And then once I've achieved it, it can go off the radar. But I'm curious if you have any other thoughts about what you would say to somebody like myself.
Okay. So one is I would accept who you are, first of all. Like that there's something wonderful about that, about having wins, because
Totally.
like you're a mosaic, you're like this colorful mosaic of experiences. So there, I think sometimes people downplay that. Like they'll
Hmm.
go jack of all trades and expert at none. They'll say things like that, but
My
I
life
don't think
motto.
that's
Yeah.
fair. Is it? Is
I say
it?
that about myself so
No.
much.
What is the expression? Jack of all trades,
Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah.
master of none.
I usually say Jill of all trades, but same
Okay.
difference.
Yeah. So I think that's not fair. I think that's not fair. However, if there's a pain in you where you're going, I really want this to be a habit in my life, and I get discouraged, and then I just, it starts strong, and then I give up, and then I forget. I forgot I even wanted the habit, and then I'm like, oh man, I got to start over again. I would say for me, I think it all depends if the habit's emotional, physical, lifestyle, relationships,
Ooh.
career, professional, talent. Like I think
Okay.
it really depends, because I know you and you are very committed to um, personal development, personal awareness, gifting to other people what you're learning, creating incredible conversations, always going after that. That's a habit. Like that is such so part of your rhythm. you know. I
Mhm.
also know that you're really active, you keep yourself fit, you eat really, really well, so you have really good habits there that are very effortless and rhythm, that have a rhythm.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think I would ask you, where does the habit fall into? Like, what part of your life is the hard part? Is
Right.
the hard part?
No, that makes sense. And
Because if your goal is to be healthy, you you may not stick to rock climbing, but you're sticking to healthy, then you're very really adventurous. I bet your commitment is to healthy living, not to rock climbing.
right, right.
So for that
Ooh,
season, you were a rock climber, but healthy habit was your number one priority. That was the reward.
right. Ooh, I like what you're saying. So it's a bummer that we're at the end of our episode because I think that this is a really, really good point that you bring up. This idea of what part of your life does it fit into? Because I do think there are certain arenas of our lives that we tend to, what's the word I'm looking for? We have an easier time with. Like, I know for me, it'd be easier for me to create a new physical habit than it would be for me to create a new emotional habit, let's say. Um, to just use that as an example. So I think knowing what part of your life the habit falls into, and then knowing for yourself, like, what level of, like how easy it is for you to work on things in that arena of your life. And then
Okay.
secondly, I
Yeah,
really
go
like,
ahead. Go ahead.
well, actually, I lost it. So you go ahead.
Oh no. Okay, well maybe this will trigger that. Okay, I just had a thought based on what you just said. If you want to lose weight and you're an emotional eater, you go on a diet. But when you want to maybe focus on the emotional, which would therefore
Right,
recreate a diet. But
right,
usually if you're an emotional eater, you focus on, I need to get a diet. Oh, I escape with food, or I like my ice cream, whatever. And so you go, I'll just won't buy ice cream. But wouldn't it be the habit is how how is my emotions? I want my
right,
emotions to have a healthier habit, not
right.
my food.
I don't want my emotions to be connected to my food eating
Yeah.
habits. I
So
want
it'd
my
be more the
emotions.
emotions that you'd want to create a habit with, not food.
Right.
Food would be an outcome. Just a thought. I don't know if that's
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
but there's just a thought based on what you
No,
just said.
and actually that did trigger the other thing I was going to say, which was that I also like that you're starting to bring in this idea of like bigger picture thinking. So, what's the habit? Let's say it was rock climbing, but was my habit really about trying to become a rock climber, or was it actually just about being healthy, as you were saying? Or again,
Mm,
this idea of, okay, I want to be on a diet. Well, is it about being on a diet, or is it about rewiring your relationship to food? So I think what I'm hearing us say is that maybe one of the first steps really with this habit formation is first understanding for yourself like what arena of your life it falls into, as well as like
mm,
what is the true essence, like why are you actually wanting this habit, and like are you going about it the right way, are you using
mm.
the right thing to try to
Yeah.
form this habit? So
Hmm.
interesting to think
Yeah,
about.
that is. That is.
Well, on that
Okay.
note, we're at the end of our episode. But I think that we ended on a really good
Yeah.
note because that is some good food for thought, no
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you all
Okay.
for listening. We'll be back next week on Do That Well.